If you or another leader in your organization says, we need to build an AI first culture or an AI ready culture, chances are you're going to fail. And in this video, we're going to explore why and think about ways that we can overcome that to ensure that AI and our people can succeed in our organization. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Paul Woods and I'm exploring how leadership, culture, organizational design, and AI all come together to generate real value and real return on investment for organizations around the world. And today we're going to explore a topic that is quite close to my heart, which is culture. And cultures in organizations, whether it's organizational culture, work culture, however you want to define it, culture in our organizations. The idea of an AI first culture is something that's really started to rise up into the conversation over the last 12 to 18 months. And you'll see it in Forbes articles or HBR articles or other sources of information you might be going to. You'll see it in white papers from technology vendors and in management consultancies that you're working with as well. And this idea of an AI first or AI ready culture being a really important thing that you need to focus on to ensure success with AI. Now, I think a lot of that conversation is being driven primarily from the generative AI point of view, the introduction of GenAI tools like ChatGPT and Copilot and Claude and others into organizations. But I think it actually applies equally in terms of machine learning based AI or other kind of more specific domain specific AI solutions. And I think it's going to be even more important into the future as we look towards Agentic AI and what's happening there, and also other AI innovations that are down the pipeline, artificial general intelligence and all those other kinds of things as well. For me, this conversation around culture is really, really important. And the thing that has happened for the entirety of the technology industry is that most technologists and most technology vendors and most technology purveyors and consultants, partners, others that you'd work with, really treat this as an afterthought in a lot of their processes and a lot of the conversation that you're having. So you'll have 80% of the conversation around the technology choices, how we clean the data, how we make sure everything's set up to be able to deploy this solution, this AI solution that we're building. And then as an afterthought, and we need to get people on board, and yes, we need to kind of go on this journey with people to get there. And the reason why I wanted to record this video is that the idea of an AI first culture is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And this is coming from a place of where, I've worked to craft cultures and create cultures. I established a new organization with a clear purpose of creating a culture that was different from where I worked previously. In my last role as a chief strategy officer, it was my job to help bring together organizations through mergers and acquisitions and see if we could get that cultural alignment happening across the organization. And I can tell you right now, crafting a culture, being purposeful about a culture in an organization is really, really hard. It's incredibly hard, so much harder than the technology side of things that you're working on. And then when I look at AI first culture and what people are recommending about an AI first culture, it's platitudes like encourage people to be more curious or train people how to do things. And it's just completely missing the point of culture and the impact of culture in the way that people adopt technology and apply technology to do amazing things in their organizations. So in this video, what I want to explore a little bit more is this idea of organizational culture, its impact on technology and technology adoption and the return on investment that you get, the role of leaders to guide that culture in their organization, and generally just think out loud for a second in terms of next steps, in terms of how you can overcome this challenge as well. So I've led with, AI first culture is a dumb approach. What is a better approach? In my mind, it's how do we amplify your culture using AI? And I think this distinction, not to saying we're an AI first culture, but we are a culture and we're using AI to amplify that, is a really important distinction to make. And let's explore why. So let's start with what is organizational culture. What is culture? It's not the values that you plaster on your intranet or the values that you have painted on the wall in your organization. Culture is really a few things. It's the values that you internalize, the beliefs that you have, and the behaviors which are common across the organization. And the interesting thing with culture is that in an organization, whether you're 15 people or 15,000 people or 150,000 people, the reality is there's not one culture in an organization. There's multiple cultures happening there, multiple values, sets of common beliefs, multiple sets of common behaviors that you'll have across your business or your organization. And this is where it gets challenging by just having blanket statements saying we're going to be an AI first culture. Is that you need to unravel all those different microcosms of cultures across the organization and then recraft it as an AI first culture, which is basically near impossible. And the reason why saying we're going to be an AI first culture and then not delivering on that promise that you're making is such a huge issue is if we look at the academic data, and there's a great paper from a few years ago kind of exploring the impact of corporate culture and organizational culture on firm performance and the expectations of executives to see higher performance in their organizations from culture and culture initiatives. And the interesting thing in that paper that clearly showed that if there is a difference between what is said and the expectations that are set from a leadership point of view, from a culture point of view, if there is a clear difference between that and what the reality is in your organization, so those real norms, behaviors, beliefs, your employee engagement or employee scores will go down. So this has it can have a negative impact on the way that you think about the employee experience that you're delivering in your organization by stating some very clear, ambition around your culture and being AI first, and completely missing the mark on that for most of your organization. The other interesting thing when I think about this is that an AI first culture doesn't have to apply to an entire organization. It could just apply to the technology team, for example. And in our technology team, we're creating an AI first culture in terms of the technology decision making that we're making when we roll out this technology. And again, I think this is problematic if we look at the data that's coming in now in terms of success with AI projects. There's really a clear need for collaboration, not just within IT, but across the organization to bring different roles together, different people together to get great outcomes with AI. And I think having this, again, a technology team so clearly focused on being AI, building this AI first culture, however we want to define that, which we'll get to in a second, and the rest of the organization not being aligned with that, again, there's going to be challenges in terms of getting a return on investment and getting the results that you expect from the projects that you're working on as well. So that's another angle to think about. Probably the third angle to think about is that if everyone's going to be an AI first culture, then every organization is going to be the same. And there's academics call it institutional isomorphism. But basically, it's another way to say it is like a race to the bottom. Ultimately, if we're all going to be the same, then there's very little that we can compete on as organizations. And if we have the same culture, the same differentiation in the market, the same brand presence, the same products and services and things like that, that are all driven from this AI first culture, then as an organization, strategically long term, we're probably going to go backwards compared to our peers or others that are thinking a little bit differently about this AI thing. Which is why I think that just blending those few things together, I think that leading with AI first culture or AI ready culture is a challenging thing for an organization. So one more thing I just thought of as well is our beliefs and our norms and our behaviors that we have in organizations today are kind of diametrically opposed to what we're recommending when we think about an AI first culture. And if I think about the idea of curiosity, which comes up quite often when we're talking about being an AI ready culture or an AI first culture, it's how do we encourage our employees to be more curious? Now that's a really challenging thing to do. So practically it's easy to say to someone, we need to be more curious, or to our team, we need to be more curious. We think about that. But if our existing cultural norms are to be a high-performing team or a high-performance organization, which or results-orientated organization, which a lot of organizations claim to be, it's going to be very difficult to be curious in that environment, simply because that curiosity requires space. And you can't really tell someone how to be curious, but you can create the space and the context for them to bring that natural curiosity up and apply it in the workplace. And like it's demoralizing sometimes when you hear someone say you need to be more curious, you need to be more innovative, you need to think differently, but you're already working 40, 45, 50, 60 hours a week trying to get your job done, and you just don't have the space to do that. And I think the culture of a high-performance team or results-oriented team kind of stifles the ability to be curious for a lot of people as well. So it's not just about saying we want to be curious, we need to be ethical, all these other kinds of things. It's how do we think about realistically, how does culture change, or how do we change culture? Change is the wrong word. How do we craft or guide our culture to maximize the potential of AI without leading with AI in the first place? Which is why I'm thinking, the idea of an AI first or an AI ready culture is kind of a short-sighted view of things. What we need to be thinking about is how do we amplify our culture? How do we amplify what's unique and amazing about our organization using AI? And that's how you get people on board. That's how you bring them on the journey. If you have, if you come into an organization and say we need to build an AI first culture, the first thing that will come into people's minds is a sense of fear. All right, you're prioritizing AI over me as an individual, or AI over our team, or AI over the process, or AI over our customers, or anything like that. And that initial impression or that initial fear is really difficult to overcome down the track as well, because it's always going to be in the back of people's mind as that is what you were trying to achieve here. It's very much a AI first, everyone else second kind of view of the world. So how do you avoid doing that? Well, it's again leading with what is unique about your organization, what is unique about your culture, and trying to reinforce that and amplify that, and thinking about how AI can do that with your organization, not to your organization. And if you get that right, then chances are you're going to have a much better reaction from your workforce, much better buy-in from your workforce in terms of how they engage with technology and engage with the introduction of AI into their business. And they'll be a lot more proactive and a lot more purposeful in the way they engage as well. If I know that we're amplifying the best bits about our culture and we're a customer-orientated, client-orientated organization, I'm going to be making better decisions around how we apply AI because we're doing it in the context of delivering better customer service or delivering better customer outcomes, as an example. If we had an AI first approach to that, we would just try and slap AI onto a process and probably wouldn't consider the potential downsides of that for that customer experience. And I think of early experiences with AI chatbots in customer service, for example. Yes, being AI first in customer service means that we are reducing the cost of service delivery. That is fantastic. But in almost every case that I've used of a customer service chatbot at the moment, I've ended up with an experience that actually takes longer and almost always has a handover to a real human agent where I need to go through the process again with them and dive into it as well. So what on paper might seem like a really great improvement in terms of customer service efficiency and productivity is not getting a better customer service outcome in that case. So that's my fear with an AI first culture, is examples just like that, where we drive to put AI into everything without considering what is the outcome that we're trying to achieve. So how do we avoid that? How do we make sure that we craft a great culture that is amplified by AI as opposed to leading with AI first? It's really, I think it is relatively simple, but I think the execution on this is really, really difficult. So it's not an easy thing to do. So the first thing is being really clear about who you are and who you serve and what you believe in as an organization. And this has got nothing to do with AI. This is just to do with strategy and purpose and mission and values, irrespective of the technology choices that you're making. And I think a lot of organizations may have had that conversation, and it may be written on a piece of paper or on the internet, but it isn't really embedded in the organization. Again, if we look at data from that survey that paper that I mentioned earlier, something like 86% of executives don't think their culture is where it needs to be. So just focusing on building a great culture in the first place, being really clear about who you are, what you stand for, is going to be really, really important. And then how do you curate that culture over time? You do that through your hiring decisions. You do that through how you performance manage. You do that through how you give feedback. You do that through how you engage with people within your organization, how you encourage people to live those values and reinforce those values. Call out when those values aren't being met within your organization and kind of reinforce that position over time. From a technology point of view, how do we use AI to amplify that culture? Well, I think it's including people in the conversation to start with. Don't have the technology team just doing the AI stuff by themselves and then forcing that onto the organization afterwards. It's really got to be a collaborative effort. It's about making sure that we are really clear about the problems that we're solving with AI and making sure that those problems are clearly understood by people in the organization and they're real and tangible and worthwhile problems to solve. And people can buy into it that way. And again, it's not about we're looking for problems to solve with AI, we're looking for problems to solve for our customers. We're looking for problems to solve for our internal operations and how we streamline that particular process. It's not about AI looking for a solution. It's about problems that exist for the core of our business and how do we apply AI to that and having that conversation with people. And then the third thing is just realizing that a lot of the generic things that we talk about when we talk about an AI-first culture, an AI-ready culture, a lot of people just aren't interested in, or at the different phases of their career where they're probably not going to be as aligned with that as you might expect others to be. And like you think about curiosity as an example, we've talked about that already. As a child, you're incredibly curious. When you're early in your career, again, incredibly curious in terms of how work works, how we do things here, how we fit into things. But as your career progresses, a lot of people, that curiosity starts to wane. And there will be people in your organization that just aren't interested in doing that. They're not interested in doing the exploration of this particular topic area. They're more interested in exploiting it and kind of just telling me what to do, help me go through this process and then get things done so I can go home to my family and things like that. So that's a bit of a rant around AI-first cultures. If I summarize that really clearly, if you're leading with the idea of an AI-first culture, I think that's going to spark a reaction with your workforce, which is probably not the one that you want, of more of fear and uncertainty in terms of their particular position or role in an organization. So the way to think about this is not to lead with an AI-first culture, but to really think about what is unique about your organization, what is the culture that we've built here today, how do we improve that culture to align with our mission and our purpose as an organization and the kind of workplace that we want to create, and then how can we apply AI to amplify all that stuff for a really positive outcome for our people, for our customers, and for the stakeholders and shareholders that we serve as well. So what I'd love to hear from you in the comments, if this idea of culture and its impact on technology adoption really resonates with you, go down into the comments and let me know what you think in terms of the challenges that you see, in terms of the relationship between culture and adoption of technology like AI. And it's, I think, exploring this two-way street, like culture's impact on the adoption of AI, but also AI's influence on culture in organizations is a really interesting thing that I'll explore in another video in the future. So if you've got any comments or questions or things like that, jump into the comments and make sure you share them there and we can engage through that. Otherwise, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with people that are like-minded, that you kind of want to have this conversation with. And hopefully we can all learn together. Thanks for watching.